Welcome back to Dear Career. I'm Tiana, your host. I am here ready to get you to where you want to be in your career. And I am joined today with a special guest, and I'm so excited to introduce you to one of my peers and colleagues, Nancy Connor, who is a mindset coach. She's here with me today, and we are going to be going into a very deep conversation about mental health because it's May and we're going to be talking about mental health. It's a really important topic for me. As you know, I bring this up all the time on the podcast in many different ways. And Nancy reached out to me and also has a passion for mental health. And I just thought this was a great platform for us to have a little bit of a conversation. So, welcome, Nancy. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you, Tiana. I am so glad to be here. So glad to see you. And yes, May is definitely Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's it like you said, it's something that I'm super passionate about. A lot of people do not address their mental health or mental illness, so to speak. So, especially in Black and Brown communities, there's a stigma about it, and so I know when I reached out to you about that, I was glad that you were on board so we could talk about it because I think a lot of people um they don't prioritize they don't prioritize it because they're afraid or because of afraid of what people might think of them. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to get into some of that stuff today. You, like me, we have we primarily work with female clients, and I think both of us each will see our clients experience mental health in different ways, and throughout their journeys, it comes up for them all the time. But one of the things I kind of wanted to kick off with to ask you because you and we've worked together. So,
Hmm.
in the HR world, we tend to see mental health come up a lot of the time, actually.
A lot.
A lot. So, I was very curious to hear from you. Just in what ways do you see mental health entering the work world in the work that you do?
In my job, because we're in compliance, and we're kind of siloed, but we're still in the HR aspect. And I think a lot of times that people, they mistake burnout for having, like, not a mental health issue, but just like a mental exhaustion. Like, you're exhausted mentally. You're constantly talking to people, you're constantly on the phone, you're in meetings all day long. And, just that overwhelming sense of like, I am mentally tired of hearing words and engaging with people, right? And if you already have a mental health issue taking place, like, that can just exacerbate it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, yeah, like, and you can kind of see it with people too, like on a regular time. It's like, yeah, just by the way they talk, sometimes by the way they pause. And I don't mean like see through them, but like something else is going on with them.
Hmm.
You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like,
Hmm.
something else. And then instead of just, taking mental health days, they'll try to work through it. And then
Sure.
just keep going and going until you're just completely like, I'm done. I need a break. And you see a lot of people go on leave, because of it, because it can be never ending. You always, you go from working, and then all of a sudden something is urgent, and or then then there's a project, and then you're back to this, and then it's that. And like, for me, like, because of my depression and anxiety, that definitely exacerbates mine a lot,
Hmm. Hmm.
especially
Hmm.
without if I'm not getting like proper sleep, or it's just, you know, just projects and things just being thrown at me one at a time, or not just back to back to back to back. Like, it mentally exhausts me, and it
Yeah.
just sends me down a rabbit hole.
Yeah. Absolutely. I wanted to go backwards and highlight a few things because you you pointed out a few things that I think were so important to talk about. And I think from your perspective, it's so important because you work to support HR employees who are constantly reaching that point of burnout. But in general, HR employees are constantly supporting the general work population who are also receiving employees who are burnt out. So people
Right.
are going through this cycle of burnout or exhaustion through burnout, and they're almost to the point I heard you say they're working when you're burnt out and working so much you're to the point of exhaustion, and then you're almost desensitized to it where
Mhm.
you don't even know what's happening, and then um it's just on fire. Everything's on fire, and then you gotta go out on a leave. And in HR, we see that employees will need to go out on a leave because they're so burnt out, because they're not addressing their mental health and their mental well-being, and they're just getting to that point of, "I'm done. I'm over it. It's gotten too far beyond, and now I can't even think straight. My job is now incapacitating me. I'm over it."
Right. And not even only that, like, especially like you said, because we mostly work primarily, with women. We're taking care of the family, we're taking care of kids, we're cooking, we're driving back and forth to get pick kids up, drop kids off, maintaining the household on top of everything else. And then
Yeah.
we have all this PTO time, but it's like I've heard people say, well, who's gonna do the work? I remember working with someone and she was getting up and working like 4 or 5 in the morning starting because
Well,
she was like, "But I'm the only one." And she was like, "And if I take days off, then who's gonna do the work?" And it's like, if you don't take days off because you're mentally and physically exhausted, your body is and your mind is gonna tell you to take days off. And eventually that's what happened.
yeah. Yeah.
And
Your
you
body's
see
gonna
it.
give out.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
And
your
it's like
body's gonna say, "Take a break."
your body is gonna say, take a break.
Mhm,
Um
mhm,
for me, I have a chemical imbalance. So I've dealt with depression for many years. And
mhm,
then the anxiety started probably like 2018. Some things happened, and then, riding into work, and I was just overwhelmed with
mm,
work and being in the office and
mm,
everything. And I knew, and I couldn't wake up in the mornings. I wouldn't do anything on the weekends. And I remember it was July of 2019. It was July 4th, and we had that earthquake. And
mm,
I remember being in this grocery store with my husband, and it just feeling like a wave. You could feel the wave, right? And
mhm,
so after that, because I would ride the train to work, so my mind just kind
mm,
of started racing about, what if something happens and I'm downtown? What if something
mm,
happens and I'm on this train? Or what if
mhm,
so all these things started like coming on, coming in my head. And at the time there was only three of us really working.
yeah,
And I couldn't sleep. And then I remember around August, it happened in August. One night I just woke up at like 2:30 in the morning. I could not sleep. I was in tears, and I had the app on my phone, and I made an appointment to see my doctor the next day.
mm,
And I went into her office and I was telling her, like, I can't sleep, I'm not eating, like, I'm anxious, my mind is racing, I'm depressed all the time, like, between work and the anxiety and everything. And she's crying, the nurse is crying, we're all in there
oh,
crying.
wow,
And it was like almost like having a mental breakdown, because I just was like, I can't function anymore, I cannot do this anymore. And at the time, I didn't wanna be on medication.
mhm,
Um, and then she was like, "I cannot help you unless you go and talk to somebody." And then,
Mm.
so, I was off from August until like November.
Oh, wow, okay,
And I
so you took a
was,
leave.
yeah, I took a leave because I couldn't do it anymore.
Oh,
And it was
wow.
hard because sometimes the red tape of dealing with, mental health is hard because you're PCP and all that. So, that even takes a toll
Mm,
on you. But
yeah,
I knew that it was time to get
yeah,
it together. But again, because of that stigma of people saying, "Oh, you're crazy," and this and the side effects, I didn't want to take medication.
yeah,
Um, but I found they assigned me a psychiatrist, and she was really awesome. And she saw it all over my place. Plus, I was starting perimenopause, so all
mhm,
of that was together, right? And
yeah,
then she was like, "I'm not a medication pusher, but I need to know like what I can help you with." And so
yeah,
I have been on medications before, and I think I had did a post about this on my page about I was assigned medication or given medication by my PCPs before and not a
mm,
psychiatrist. So I definitely
mhm,
recommend, please, for anybody, please go to a psychiatrist. Do not get your medication
sure,
from a PCP.
yeah,
And I think we were probably about 2 weeks in of me seeing her and talking to her, and I just had another just like complete meltdown of crying and anger and all these things. And
mhm,
so she's like, "I need to know." She's like, "I know you don't want to be on medication." She was like, "But I need to know. I can't help you. I can't help you without knowing exactly what you're going through." So I emailed her everything, how I felt and what I was going through, and then we finally talked again and we came up with the medication that I'm on now. But what she did is like she slowly dosed me. She was like,
mhm,
"Okay, you're going to take this many milligrams for 7 days.
mhm, mhm,
Next week we're going to take this many milligrams for this time." And
yes,
then to see how the side effects, because she would tell me, she was like, "I don't want you white knuckling through the side effects. If it's bothering you to the point where it's
yeah,
so bad, I need you to tell me." So
yeah,
finally, so that's why with her, I trust her. But again, you have to find somebody that you like, somebody that you
yeah.
trust, somebody that listens,
So when you
to
first
you.
started that medication though, it was the same medication? Did she start you on something else and then she
She
switched it up a
started
little bit based on your feedback?
No, I didn't change. It's just that she wanted to get me to a certain point, but she
Got it.
wanted to take it slow
She wanted the
because she
easy
was like,
way.
"I don't want to put you at the highest dose and then you have all the side effects, all at one time. I want to see
Mhm,
how it
yeah,
helps. If it,
yeah,
you know, g- does it ease your symptoms? Does it help you sleep better? Is it helping you with your anxiety?" So it was like, take one for this many days, take this many days,
yeah,
and then till we get you to a higher level. And I've been able to come down, you
yeah,
know, um
yeah,
at least
yeah,
25 milligrams since then.
yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I thank you for sharing that. And anybody that's listening, this is such a great share to share. I like to tell my clients as well. I don't know if this comes up with your clients at all when you're working with them, but so I have clients who they deal with different things. I've dealt with clients who sometimes they'll deal with anxiety, different things that they deal with. But what I like to tell clients, just with the social work background that I have, if you are deciding that medication is something I want to explore, I always work with clients and encourage them to have patience because
Mhm.
everybody is different. So when you're deciding that you want to explore medication, you may start a medication. And like you said, when you're working with a psychiatrist, having that relationship with a psychiatrist is so important to have the communication with them, to be clear, to be as transparent as you can about what you're feeling with the medication. You want to have
Mhm.
someone you can trust because everyone's body is going to react to a chemically, you're going to react to a different
Yep.
concoction of medication differently based on your body makeup versus somebody else. So while,
Mhm.
one person might react to Prozac one way, another person will react totally differently. So you want to make sure that you're having those conversations and be as patient as possible because you don't know how your body's going to receive it. You don't know how you will receive it. You may not like
Mhm.
how you feel. And sometimes you're going to have to go back and forth, and it might take a few tries before you get something that actually works for you. So, if you decide that you're going to go that direction of medication, it may take some time, but it is going to be a little bit of a chapter and a journey. And like you said, you really had to trust and build that relationship. And it wasn't something that happened right away. It was
Yeah.
something that, you had to work at before it became right. And then you've kind of gone up in dosage and gone down in dosage. And
Mhm.
it's been a long process for you. And that's
Yeah,
a very real experience with medication.
it is because I've been on medications that have had me feel like I was just in a twilight all the
Hmm.
time, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
for me, and I can name it. Zoloft didn't work for me. Like it
Uh-huh.
worked for
Uh-huh.
a while, but then after a while, it was just like I just felt like I was just like in a fog or like a
Uh-huh.
slow motion type of movie, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um I think the first time I was on another one, I can't remember the name of it, but it had me like really bad cramps in my stomach, like just in
Mm,
pain and
mhm, mm,
migraines. Another one had me so happy where it was insane. Like it was like you that's all, and not saying that you don't want to be
like in
happy,
your
but it was
body, or
like
was it like
yes, like, it was, like, everything. It
blissful,
was like
like
I was
but a
so yeah, but
sensation?
it was not
Oh, interesting.
natural. It
No, it
wasn't a
didn't feel good.
natural yeah, it wasn't a
Yeah.
natural sensation, right?
Yeah.
And the side effects
Feels
for
weird.
that one were bad because
Yeah.
people can have sexual side effects or you can have,
The
tremors
weight
or
gain is a very big
weight
one
gain.
with certain
Yes.
anxiety medications. So that one comes up a lot. I am as well. I have an anxiety medication that I'm on right now, and postpartum, and I've talked about this on my podcast. Just dealing with postpartum anxiety and
Mhm.
just the up and down of being in postpartum has been really big for me. But when I was nursing, I could not be on a lot of medication. I wasn't able to when I was nursing, and so I could only do a
Mhm.
certain medication, only a very, very little bit. And I still have that one. And it's like an as needed, so it doesn't do much for me, but because my body can take on a little bit and it does a lot for me. All
Right.
that little bit is enough. I'm like, "Okay, I feel it," even though it's so little. And then now I
Mhm.
have another one that I'm on, and that's like a daily medication I take, but because I'm already anxious, so taking something new, it's something that I've taken
Mhm.
in the past, which is funny because this medication I previously took for, seizures that I used to have, and now I take it for anxiety. So sometimes there are medications you have to really ask your doctor, but some medications
Mhm.
can have dual purposes. And so I it kind of serves as like a little bit of a migraine seizure medication as well as an anxiety medication for me. So for me, it's
Right.
like doing a lot of things, and that's like I said, everybody's different, so everyone's experiencing things different, and it's partly your brain. Your brain is
Mhm.
going to be a different chemical makeup than anybody else's. So just like
Right.
you're feeling these things in your body, somebody else is going to feel something else completely different. But you're right, like those are the feelings that are things that people can be looking out for.
Yeah, yeah, cause like, for me, it's like the first week, it was you not much change. The second week,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, but then, like, maybe by your 3rd week, like, for me, it was kinda like, okay, I'm not sleeping well. Um, what's going on with that. Like I have a little bit of insomnia or like I
Mm,
get tired because she gave me something also too that is like more time released. So
mm,
taking it at a certain time of the day, like for me, I know that I have to take it in the mornings because if I take it at night, it'll have even now it'll have me where I'm up,
yeah,
like I'm not sleeping as
yeah,
well as I should. And the good thing about my psychiatrist is that she was very she explained, like, she looked at all the medications that I was already on, like my blood
mm,
pressure and stuff like that. And then even like for like I think she wanted to prescribe me like Ativan or another anxiety medicine, but she was like, okay, but this one is like addictive. And then I already have not me, but I have, an addictive personality, like, from my dad's side of the family,
mhm, mhm,
so I'm like, "No, I don't wanna be anything
yeah,
on anything that I'm dependent on,"
yeah,
and that's another thing too, like, I think with people, the stigma of medication, they don't wanna
yeah,
be dependent on it, but it's like, but if you had a heart disease, you
yeah,
would take it, right? If you
yeah,
had like me, I have glaucoma. I have to use my drops every day. I'm not gonna let my
mhm,
health fail because I don't wanna be on medication, and yeah, it just you have to definitely change your mindset when it comes to thinking about being, like you said, taking that route of being on meds because I don't know if all things natural help everybody.
yeah, yeah. Shifting the perspective around how we look at mental health is really important. It's just like how we treat the rest of our health. If
Mhm.
we have blood pressure issues, whatever it is, we would do whatever we need to do to treat those issues, whether it's with medication, vitamins, whatever it is. The same thing with our mental health. However, what's happening today, still, we've come a long way, but it's still looked at as like if you take medication, you're crazy. You're labeled
Mhm.
as a crazy person. And that's
Right.
just not true because it's so important to continue to maintain our mental health, continue to treat it and address our mental health and our mental well-being so that
Mhm.
we can be okay and
We
we can
can,
show
yeah.
up in the world our best selves.
Right. And for me, like mental illness runs on my father's side, but my dad
Mm,
was born in 42. So
mm,
back then they didn't know really things about mental health, right? They didn't know anything about much about mental illnesses or things like that. I think my dad was more like bipolar, like
mhm, mhm,
he would because he would have highs and then he would have really low lows and, although I don't really have that, mine are just always low. Like mine are
mm,
mostly low. But, back in the black community it was like, oh, he's just crazy or like, the boy ain't right. Or, just,
yeah,
stuff like that. And then it carries on.
yeah,
People don't think that there's anything like you said, they just look at it as you got 2 arms, you got 2 legs, you're healthy, and be grateful for what you have and, go on about
yeah,
your business. And that and I see that in a lot of, um, like I said, in the Black community. It's like, "Oh, girl, you're just lazy," or, "Oh, why are you angry all the time?" Because, depression can cause you a lot of anger and sadness, dealing with that. Bipolar is different. People change their moods, schizophrenia, all those things. But it's like nobody really wants to deal with it. I'm not
mhm,
sure if it's just because, they feel like medication isn't for us um or what, but you have to deal with it because like you said, how are we gonna show up as our best selves? How are you gonna
well,
show up for yourself or your others?
yeah. But I mean, I think in general there is a lack of education all around when it comes to mental health, and that's part of why there's like these stigmas around it. But
Mhm.
I do think in communities of color there is an extra stigma. As you know, my husband is Indian, and I see it a lot. in the Indian community where it's just disregarded. Mental health is not, um, really it's not understood. I think there's a
Mhm.
lot of misunderstandings, and it's sad. It's very sad. Um, and I kind of to connect this. You said something earlier that's reminding me of it. You said something earlier and we didn't really talk about it, so I want to bring it back because
Okay.
to come back to this because it's still within like communities of color, but you you were talking about women specifically, and I think this is also to do with women and women of color because I see this a lot is women take on such a burden of having to do so much that there it's not just about you were talking about somebody that I think was at work and who if she didn't do the work then who was going to because she
Yep.
was responsible for everything. So women are not only having to do their jobs now but they also are responsible for the regular household duties that just
Mhm.
becomes them, and especially if they're moms, they have to do, like, the doctor's appointments and the dentist appointments and all of
Yep.
the regular childcare things, and it's just not taken on by, typically a male figure in the home, if there is one, and, it just all becomes part of the women's responsibility, and so one of the things that I've noticed, partly being I think in postpartum, and I talk about this a little bit
Mhm.
in some of my episodes, but um that postpartum anxiety is the my how my nervous system is so shot because and it's been fried and with the postpartum anxiety because it was like so overstimulated. And I think where to connect it to like burnout, there's so women are so overworked that I
Yep.
think they're kind of desensitized to the
Mhm.
fact that I don't think that they're always recognizing that they're in burnout or
They
that
don't.
they don't even sometimes recognize that their nervous system is overstimulated and overworked, that they're not even addressing their own mental health and well-being because they don't know they're so desensitized to the fact that they are
Mhm.
burnt out. And so that's why I think they're running up against that wall of like, okay, now I'm over it and now I got to go out on a leave. Or especially in communities of color because they're even more burnt out. They're because they're taking on these other hidden layers of responsibility where they become the note takers and they become these silent roles in the workplace even
Yep.
where they don't even know that they're taking on some of these hidden roles that they're responsible for, and it's heavy, it's heavy
It is.
work to take on, it's a heavy burden to carry, and so they're not addressing um all of these things. So of course, how can they address their mental health too? So I don't know if you see
Right.
any of that, but
I
I
do.
see this a lot with my clients.
I do see it, yeah. And and I see it in myself. I've seen it in myself, right?
Hmm.
Where and I've seen it in my family. I
Yeah.
see it with others, especially like you say, women of color. It's like we don't get a chance to say we're tired, right?
Yeah.
We don't.
There's no days off.
There's no days off. Like you're not able to be, you're not able to be tired. You're not able to say, um, let somebody else do it, or just like, you know what, I'm not gonna do that today. I'm gonna tackle that another day. No, it's always go, 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 go. And the
Yeah.
way that we were raised, it was kind of like, when you're tired, it's like you're lazy. Like I see my one sister and I love her to pieces, but she works all the time. She always
Mm.
has to be the strong one. And it's like that strong woman mentality will have you, I'm telling you, in a corner rocking back and forth. And I say that jokingly, but I mean it, like you literally will be just in shambles. And that's like when I had felt like mine, that's how I was. Like my husband, thank goodness that, my husband was home with me because he had a work injury. So he was off work at the time. but he took such good care of me at a time because, I think at first he really didn't understand it.
Mhm.
Um, and then, we've been together 25 years, so like the ups and downs and the ups and downs of
Yeah.
my mental health, right? But like you said, you don't I see, women all the time, like, I see, Mexican women, Latin women, they're working all the time, and it's like, aren't you tired? And like, no, somebody has to do it, it has to get done. It's like
Right.
there's no taking care of you. There's no
Yeah.
taking care of this. It's just go, go, go. You're not allowed. And so
Yeah.
you don't even know that you're dealing with a mental health crisis
Yeah.
because you're just going. Because even if you are, nobody, you feel like nobody cares. And you see that in your clients,
Mhm. Mhm.
sometimes. And like you say, you probably see it a lot in yours, with what you do.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely comes up a lot. I mean, I have clients who they end up taking roles. I mean, I think sometimes I have clients who a lot of times they will be doing leadership work, but then they don't have a leadership title. That's something that comes up a lot.
Mhm.
They just continuously get packed on work and they don't get paid what they're supposed to be getting paid. They don't get the
Mhm.
title they're supposed to be getting, but they continuously get the work. Part of it, I think, is they're not able to advocate for themselves, but I think part of it is they haven't really been able to check in with themselves to see.
Mhm.
I'm so busy taking care of everyone else, I'm not taking care of myself. I don't even know
Right.
what's going on for myself. I'm just here taking on the work and doing what I'm being told to do, but it
Yeah,
ends up getting away from them.
it
Yeah.
does. And like nobody's coming to save you. And basically, like
Yeah.
there's no relief. Sometimes there's just always do more with less. And we even have we have programs like employee assistance
Employee,
almost for
yeah, and it's an employee assistance program. So it's
right.
basically like typically it's like a therapy program for employees.
Right.
So
And we don't even have enough of
usually,
those now.
yeah, well, employers are starting to go away from these programs now, I've noticed.
Mhm.
So typically with if an employer is going to bring on an employee assistance program, they're going to use like a third party. It's like serves as neutral, but it's kind of like an insurance thing for them. It protects them.
Mhm.
Okay, we provided this benefit for the employee to take care of ourselves. We're protecting ourselves. We provided this just in
Mhm.
case anything happened. They had a resource for, and we can say that we gave them something. But now they're
Right.
starting to completely move away from it. I think partly because sometimes the medical benefits they are providing will include a therapy within it. But
Mhm.
they're not always doing that, and every state is also different. So
Exactly.
I don't know, that's a little bit up in the air.
Mhm.
Every company is a little different, but that's something to look out for. Like if you're looking for a job, ask about that. Ask what kind of mental health services do you provide as an employer? Like what does in your next
Yes,
opportunity look out for what kind of resources are provided? Because that's really important. The
it
employer
is
should
very
be
important.
looking out for your mental health. When an employer is in support of that, hopefully there's good balance in the organization. But that's not always the case because as we know, that there was an internal employee assistance program, where
Mhm.
where I previously worked, but
Yeah.
that didn't really, I don't know that that meant anything
Right.
necessarily.
And that's what I said. And then now it's like when they don't even have enough people to help the employees that you have, right? Um and when I wanted to touch back on something you said about leadership, like women are thrown into a leadership role, and that kind of happened with me, right? When we had the leader go on leave and it was like all on me and my other worker, and I'm like, we're trying to get all these things done and stuff. And But for me, and I was like burned out, like just I was like
Mhm.
by the time this person came back, and I was like, I need to take some days. So, but when I became a supervisor, will I definitely advocated for my team. Hey, you need an employee, you need to take a mental health day. I can hear it in their voice. I can see how you're performing. Like, and
Mhm.
you don't have to tell me anything. I want you to take a mental health day. You don't have to tell me you don't tell people why you're sick anyway. You call out sick. You don't have to tell me when, you don't have take it. I will take a mental health day in a heartbeat. I do if now I will, because if I feel that for me, when my depression starts to um take hold of me, I start going and I go into what I call a downward spiral, and it's low, like
Mhm.
everything everything suffers, especially
Mhm.
at work, right?
Yeah.
Even working from home, it doesn't matter. Like you still I'm calling off. And I'll
Yeah.
take 2 or 3 days. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you max out at a certain hour anyway, you might as well take 'em. I always encourage, um, my direct reports, "Please take a mental health day. Please take your mental
Yeah.
health day. I don't care what you go out there and do, or if you need the employee assistance, use that. Take your time.
Yeah.
Go do therapy. Whatever it is that you need to do." I probably violated some kinda HR rule, but,
Well, not in my book, not in my book. I'm
and
so
I
glad you said
know,
that,
because
Nancy.
I don't think that leaders think about that, and I
They
think that's
don't.
something that they need to talk about. That's
They should.
another
They should.
thing.
I always encourage it in that way and in that format too. And I'm glad you said that, Nancy. And as a leader, I'm glad you said that because from the HR perspective, I would frame it that way. If you need a
Mhm.
mental health day, use sick time. I don't
Yeah.
think um I don't think actually a lot of HR leaders are framing it that way, and I don't know if this is just a social work background that comes in, but I'm always saying that, and whenever I've brought in new hires and I've done orientations, I've always told the employees, if you don't feel good mentally, if you need to take a mental health day, if your dog died and you need a mental health day, use sick time. That's what it's for. Your mental health is also considered sick time. Like,
Mhm.
that is what sick
That's
time is. It's the
yeah.
same thing, like, as if you needed to go to the doctor. It's the same thing. Just like we were talking about earlier, like,
Mhm.
addressing your mental health is still it's another form of being sick, and it needs to be addressed.
It does. And a lot of people don't that's an and that's not only a stigma as far as people of color, but that's a stigma in the workplace that,
Yeah,
as before, like, oh, you don't need to take a mental health day. Like, we give you good benefits, but it's like, I don't need to tell you what it is for. If I wake up in the morning and I don't feel good, like if my depression has got me by a chokehold, I'm taking a mental health day. I can
yeah,
feel it days coming on, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and I'll do it. And my husband's like, my husband has come home from because on his break, and he's like, taking a mental health day, huh? Exactly. I'm definitely
But you're
taking
using it in the
a
right way, and
because
that's
it's sick
good.
time. I don't,
Yeah,
you
and
know what I
that's
mean? Like
good.
you said, that you're sick mentally, whatever it may be. You could be, and think about it too, Tiana. Like, we have all these things going on, right? We've had all
Yes.
these, um, and I'm not gonna get into it, but I'm like, we've had all these political changes, and we've had all these people,
Yeah.
we've had uproars and protests and all that. That
It's
takes
a
a
hard
toll
time right now.
on people, right?
Yeah,
Now
yeah, yeah,
we're paying $700 for gas. Like, all of that can take a toll on your mental health, you
yeah.
know. And for me,
Mhm,
what I do on my mental health days when I take off, I'll sleep in late. I'll
mhm.
take my time. I'll walk my dog extra long.
Yeah,
Um, just kind of sometimes if it's a nice day, because we live in one of those apartments where you have a pool, I'll sit out by the pool.
yeah,
Just, to to ground myself, to watch mindless TV, or just or nothing, or take naps all day. Whatever it I'm going that's my mental health day, because I
Yeah.
don't want to think about whatever else is going on, and I need that time to um to recover, right?
Mhm.
You know how, like, if you work out too hard, sometimes you're gonna need those days to recover. Like, when my depression hits me and I'm in that downward spot, I need 2 or 3 days to just kinda sit in it, and then
Yeah.
come and then come out of it.
Yeah.
I need to, like, sometimes I need to let it take a hold of me, right?
Yeah.
And
You need to restore the energy. Mhm.
yeah, and I'll be depressed for a day or so and lay in the bed, um and let it just kinda linger, and then I'm like, "Okay, I'm cool." But
Mhm.
before, especially before medication, I was in, like you talked about postpartum, I was in the bed for days, weeks.
Mhm.
My
Mhm.
husband would literally have to come and make me take a shower, uh,
Mhm.
take the sheets off the bed, make
Mhm.
me change my clothes and when I had hair, wash my hair.
Mhm.
Um, because I was so low that I just could not move. People don't understand when you suffer from a mental illness that, um, what the symptoms, they're different for everybody, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and for me, mine were just, just it's more like it says, it felt like somebody asked me what depression felt like, and it was like, for me, it felt like, um running a marathon with 2 broken legs, or like,
Mhm.
yeah, or like, remember
Mhm.
when, if you were ever grounded, and you could watch the kids outside
Mm.
play and you couldn't?
Yeah.
That's what it
Stuck
feels
inside.
like. That's
Mhm.
what it feels like for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
you
that's
know,
hard. Uh-huh.
it is.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that because it gives people a little bit more insight, especially if they haven't experienced that themselves. They don't know. You're right. Like I've said before, there's such a misunderstanding about mental health and mental illness. People don't know, and everyone's experience is different. So
mhm,
the more we can try to educate people and bring more awareness, the more um we can reduce the stigma
yeah,
because that's really what is happening is that the stigma is just continue to exist, unfortunately. And it's interesting because there was we all experienced this thing called COVID. And post COVID or during COVID was a very heightened time of it was increased anxiety, increased depression for many people, and especially in the work world when people
yeah,
couldn't go outside, people were stuck inside. I saw that a lot. And this was a time when I was having to it was very difficult for me because I couldn't help people. I couldn't meet them really fully where they
mhm,
were. And you would try to tell people to take a sick day. And, people needed some kind of balance. But what were they going to do when they couldn't really take a day? They
yeah,
were working so much, they were burning themselves out, but then they didn't have anywhere to go. So then the best thing they could do was go back to work. Because that
mhm,
was also their community, so it was such a weird time for people, but I almost feel like I thought we learned a little bit from that, but now we're
mhm,
back, 6 years removed now, maybe 5, but
right,
we're outside of that, and we're kind of back to where we were, and people are still, like confused by
mhm,
mental health, and it's like we're back to the beginning again. Like people
right,
don't remember that, hey, depression and anxiety are still a thing. They're still very common in the workplace. People do experience these things in the workplace, and taking a mental health day because you need to take a mental health day or take a sick day at work to deal with
Mhm.
mental health is okay. It's
Yeah.
not a bad thing to do. And I don't know. I still think that, there's questions around it.
Yeah.
Employers or managers are still questioning it when it's like, no, why are you questioning it? We just came out of it. Did we not learn?
Did
But
we
it's
not?
still
Yeah.
happening. Yeah.
I
No,
don't
apparently we didn't.
I
Well,
don't think
I
that
mean,
people realize, like, how bad, like, they don't it's like they can't remember, like, how bad COVID some people, like, how bad COVID was. And for me, I I had my symptoms of being it was great for me to not have to be in the office, right? Because I was already having those anxious thoughts of being at work. So when I came off my leave, I only worked 4 days a week, right?
mm,
And I think that's and then I was going to therapy, and I think that's when COVID hit, that's when we started, like, Zoom, right? The Zoom therapies, and for me, that was great because I was already having, like, social anxiety or excuse me, or anxiety just from being in the office, because I always thought that something my anxiety came from always thinking that I wasn't be able to get to my family if something happened.
mm,
Um
yeah,
what if the train crashes and this, or my kids at school and I can't get to them, or my husband, like we're all like, my husband and I, he worked here, I was here, my
yeah.
daughters were other places, and then I'm trapped. So that, and people that don't have anxiety, like before I used to think anxiety was like strange. I didn't understand it. But now it was like, girl, you can't drive on the freeway. And then now it's like, okay, don't make fun of people that have anxiety because you don't know what caused it. You don't know why they have it. You're just racing, right? And that's what it's like. You have to tell yourself, like, you have to ground yourself. Or you may have to take medication to get it because anxiety seems so unnatural to some. It's so unnatural for some people, but for us, it's like it's a part of who it's become, like kind of a part of who you are, right? And
Yeah.
and managing it, is hard. So during COVID, for me being at home, I was fine. But
Mhm.
for some people that was harder for them. And then you're
Yeah.
stuck to sit with yourself and your depression and your anxiety and whatever else you're going to, right? Because you couldn't
Well,
go anywhere, you couldn't get things,
I
so it
think the
probably made it
people that
worse.
the people that weren't really necessarily f facing their mental health, or any kind of mental issues that they were having, mental health concerns, they weren't addressing them before, and COVID really made them look in the mirror and say, "Hey, you gotta deal with this. You can't not deal with it anymore." Because I kind of feel like everyone has to have some kind of anxiety at some point in their life, and maybe it's
Right.
not like a real full anxiety, but maybe they have some anxiety, talking in public or doing a presentation. There's some anxiety there. You're having some feelings of anxiety. Do you live with anxiety? Maybe not, but you've experienced some kind of anxiety a little bit of like, oh, I'm about to, talk, and I'm about to
Right.
present in front of this audience or whatever it is. Stage fright is a form of
Right.
anxiety. But I think for me, I'll speak for me, my postpartum anxiety was such a heightened form of anxiety that I've never experienced before. So
Mhm.
before that, always knew I had anxiety, but this kind of anxiety was like extreme for me. It was like 0 to 100. My
Mhm.
thoughts, like, and what you're saying, I think women especially experience this kind of anxiety that you're talking about. Oh my gosh, if something happens and I can't get to my kids, I can't get to my husband, I can't get to my family. Oh my gosh, I definitely have that. And in the postpartum, it was like extreme, 0 to like right after having my son, it was like I could I and that part of that is postpartum's brain way.
Mhm.
It's your way of protecting yourself and your child. Your brain is now trying to form ways of protecting and keeping yourself and your child safe.
Right.
But for me, it was like becoming debilitating. I couldn't
Mhm.
function. I was just breaking down, crying constantly because I was so highly anxious and my nervous system was so shot. I
Mhm.
was living in this heightened place of anxiety, like that I was feeling it all the time. My heart was like jumping out of my chest all the time. I was constantly like on edge. And that's just not me. Like I'm not
Right.
normally like that. But I was like I think I told you this before. I was sweating all the time. Like I
And the
was
way you said it, you're
constantly
like, "I'm sweating." I'm
and I'm already a hot person. I'm already like a very warm. Like I can't, I can't sleep in a hot bed. Like I'm
Right.
already a very warm person, but I was like constantly sweating. My heart was beating, like I was feeling it all the time. And everyone
Mhm.
feels things differently. And so I could tell like this wasn't normal for me. So everyone
Mhm.
is going to feel their anxiety a little different. And I think what COVID did was COVID just like spotlighted all of our feelings of everything, like whatever it was
Mhm.
we were dealing with, depression, anxiety, whatever we were dealing with. Because for some people, there were some actual mental illness that they were dealing with, but then it became so exacerbated because um we were living in extreme times and it felt like the end of the world for some people. And
Yep.
so they were really kind of living in their mental illness and it wasn't getting addressed. And
Oh, I
so
know.
there was a lot of that. And then having to show up to work in this
Mm.
weird way, especially for virtual employees, showing up to work like that was it
Yeah.
was it was a lot. It was a bit
It was a
it was a
lot.
bit much. Yeah, so I don't know, I thought, maybe we've come far, but yeah, I
We
think we're
I
still evolving.
I think that we've come I agree with you because you know, you really realize, like like, the COVID makes you realize, like, you either love and like your family because love and like is is different, or you really dislike them a lot. And I don't wanna be at home with you all the time, like, for my family, it was great because I felt I didn't have that anxious feeling of if something happens, I can't get to my daughter. And remember around that time there before, like, there were a lot of shootings at school and before COVID and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, oh, my baby's home with me. I don't have to worry about that. But then I didn't think about how it affected her and her
Mhm.
anxiety. She developed this social anxiety and being
Yeah.
nervous when we started like to come out of it. Um
Mhm.
but like you said, showing up as a virtual employee and then you're like, okay, something is not right with me. COVID just made you kind of like you said, stew in your crap, right? You just kind of like you had to take a long look at yourself.
Yeah.
For me, I was grateful for COVID because like I was already in therapy and had my medication going before COVID. So I think for me, it helped me to it eased in for me, right? Not in a you know, not so smooth, but like it was okay for me to be at home and it
Mhm.
was okay
Mhm.
for me. And I didn't feel anxious as I was because I wasn't having to go to the office, like going to even now, I can go places, but when I have to go to the office, I it gives me so much anxiety to
Mm,
just go get ready to like I start having like I don't
yeah.
sleep that well the night before, all of that. But for me being home, and I was already in
It's your
therapy, like
safe
I said, and
place.
it was
Yeah.
like home is my safe place, which is not
Yeah.
always good, right? Because then you don't want to go out.
No.
But I think a lot of people, you know, realize, oh, you know what? I might need to do something about my mental illness. I might need to address that,
You, you know what? I don't think you're the only one actually now saying that, like thinking what you're saying now. I think so many people realize working from home. how anxious they were when they had to go back to the office, realizing, "Oh, I actually feel better working from home. I don't wanna go back into the office." And it wasn't because there was a lot of, getting people to go come back to the office. It wasn't just about being working from home and the comfort from working from home. That was one thing, that was one part of it that people liked, but I think part of it was exactly what you're saying. There was this social anxiety that people were experiencing, and I don't think people were willing to admit it,
Yeah.
that I don't feel comfortable because I actually don't feel great in my work environment. And I've talked about this a little bit previously on the podcast, but psychological safety is such a key
Mhm.
part of the work environment, and employers don't always pay attention to this. But if you're not feeling psychologically safe in your work environment, your mental health is not going to be great.
It's
You're
not.
not going to want to go into the office. You're not going to want to be safe. You're not going to feel safe there. You're not going to want to go and be around these people that you don't feel comfortable with, especially if you don't feel like you can be yourself or you can
Yeah.
show up in any kind of authentic way. If you're not psychologically safe, you're just not safe. And especially, for women, especially for communities of color, if you can't be in any kind of authentic self way,
Yeah.
y you're not gonna wanna go into an environment where you're not accepted.
You're not. And I know that for sure, like, because when they moved our building, right, and it was just like everything was so just it was rigid, and this you couldn't even
Mm,
go and take a walk. There was nowhere to just like go outside and breathe, and like you can't even make a phone call to check on your kids or whatever. And that had and then you just always there was like this air of intimidation and
mm,
bullying without word, right?
mm,
Without the words. And like you said, feeling psychologically safe at your job, like, and that exacerbated my depression and anxiety because I would feel it
mm, yeah,
all the time.
yeah,
And just by tasks and words and this and the looks and like, checking up on you like you're a 2-year old, and those kinds of things, right? And if you yeah, that just it just it was a lot, being
mm,
in the office, and people and some people liked it, and I'm like, "Okay, and that's fine."
yeah,
Let the ones that like it go back. I don't wanna be and like I said, mine started me not wanting to be in the office started in 2018, and then by 2019, it just it was worse, right? When I had
yeah,
that. And so, yeah, you don't like you said, this being psychologically safe, especially for women of color. Like I've seen other women of color like being bullied literally like in my face, and it's like no wonder why people don't want to be here anymore. And
yeah,
the thought of coming back just to have us come back, you know,
yeah,
it was that it took took another, mental toll on people, I think, you know,
yeah,
and stuff. So yeah, and it's just a lot. And I just feel like people, like we said before, people do not address not only in they don't address their mental health enough in the workplace and enough even outside of the workplace. Like
yeah,
you have it doesn't matter where it comes from. Um if if it you get it from like it carries over through your parents, or if it's whatever, like you have to take care of it. How are you going to be the best person that you can be without
mhm,
it?
mhm,
I
mhm,
told you I was joking with my psychiatrist. I was like, I've always thought people are running around here over medicated, under medicated, or not medicated at all. And I'm like, when I went to go see her, I think it was like March or whatever. And it was like, it's springtime. It's time to recalibrate your meds.
mm,
You either need to up your dosage or you need to lower it.
yeah,
Um, uh, you know, or, and some people some people may only need medication for a certain amount of time to get them over the hump, but for me, I need
Mhm,
mine all the time. I have to take mine
mhm,
every day.
mhm. Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
That's really fair. I mean, that's a good point. So, like, bring that up again if that's something you're considering and you want to explore that route. That's such a great point. It might be something that's like a temporary amount of time to get you through a particular stage in life, especially for women. Um, as women, we go through many cycles in life. And, sometimes we need that extra support, and that's
Yeah.
okay. Like, that is so okay. Uh, there's depending on where we're at in life, the hormonal challenges that we face can be so challenging.
Ugh,
So
it's terrible.
it's very tough.
Yeah. Or like you were saying, like you had a baby, right? And I'm past the baby stage, like where I'm in perimenopause. And just the hormones of that, and even that causes you to go through anxiety. Like you get I didn't know that
Mhm.
anxiety came with that too. So on top of the anxiety I already have, then you have to deal with the anxiety, that symptoms that come with menopause, and then you deal with the depression symptoms that come with menopause. So all of that is like,
Plus,
and
it's
you
like
know, for
hormones, so I'm like, sure, it's just so much. Yeah.
yeah, it's so much. Women, we do so much, and it's like we don't ever get a break, but we have to start taking ourselves and our mental health and our bodies and our all that stuff. We have to start doing it like we
Yeah.
have to, no matter what anybody says, no matter what people or your families or you know the things that people think about you. um, I don't have to explain to anybody that I need medication. It is what it is, right? Um, and whether you, and when I say the collective, you want to tell people that's on you. If you don't have to. Just know that I'm showing up as my best self, keeping myself out of jail because I take meds.
I think we still have ways to go. Like, I think we still have work to do as
There's a
far
lot of work to do.
as yeah, and hopefully, I do think that there's some gaps within, like, generations, and I don't know how much work we can help the older generation with to
Mhm.
educate, um, but I do think, like, the younger generation is really growing up in this. They grew up in a time with COVID, and they like very self-aware. They
Yeah.
seem to know a lot. So, there might come a time where we're really starting to minimize the stigma. But time will tell. I think we're getting there. There's still so much work to do, and there's so much education to continue to have because there's a lot we don't know. There's a lot
Mhm.
about serious mental illness that
Yeah.
many people don't know. And I think what serious mental illness looks like across the board for women, um, I think it just it varies. It can look so different from one person to another person. Bipolar disorder, you mentioned bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, um, schizophrenia, all of
Yeah.
these serious mental illnesses, they look so different just
Mhm.
depending on the person. And we're still learning about some
We are.
things. There's ones that are popping up more and more with women, or they're getting diagnosed more and more. So some of these
Mhm.
more serious ones, there's probably many women who are going on undiagnosed, because they're just not getting treated. And unfortunately, the way that because people are not addressing it, what will happen is people are self medicating,
Yep.
and that's not the best way to be your most healthy self. So
Yeah.
if you are dealing with something that is serious, or you're dealing with your mental health, please do your best to take care of yourself and
Yeah.
um, work on trying to find resources. I'll try my best to link some resources if I can. But
Yeah.
um, is there anything that you want to make sure that you're getting some takeaways or are giving some insights on for anyone listening today?
Yeah. I do. I think my takeaway is that, like you said, it all hits us different.
Hmm.
We need, and everybody doesn't need medication. You could just need intense therapy for certain things. But it's always good to be in tune. And if you see somebody, and I always think too, like if you see somebody struggling, like don't make fun of them, try to help them. Try to give them, like you said, try to give them the resources. And you just don't know what other people are going through. So,
Hmm.
um, be kind to others and also even, give yourself some grace. We need to give
Hmm.
ourselves grace as women. So, and I
Yeah.
love your cards that you do, um, the little cards that you
My
do
press pause
for,
lyric
yes,
cards.
I love those. And yeah, for anybody else that's listening, if you need to press pause, just, yeah. And hopefully this, will reach people that will give them some insight.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to say on that, I do just to kind of add to that because I want to make sure people are being safe. It's so important to be safe. Serious mental illness is a very serious thing. So I have been
Mhm.
in a situation where unfortunately dealing with someone with mental illness and it wasn't safe. And so always, always, always make sure you're being safe and taking care of yourself and keeping yourself in a safe situation. Even though I have training and I was actually in my training program, I was still like in an unsafe situation and it can be
Mhm.
very scary because you
Yeah,
don't know how someone's going to react to certain things, especially if they're dealing with a certain mental illness. You just don't
yeah,
know. So
you don't.
always make sure you're safe. But I agree, try to enter the world with kindness and treat people with kindness. Like that is the best way to
That
approach
is.
things. And let's start with ourselves. But
Yes.
if we can start with ourselves, we are going to change the world. And so
Oh, I know we are.
let's do
They're
that.
gonna
Like
have
let's
everybody.
yeah, we're gonna actually do this here because when we release this, this card will already be shown. But
Okay.
we're gonna read our card, our press pause health flashcard of
Oh, cool.
the week. So if you don't know, on my Instagram, the Dear Career Instagram, I actually do my press pause flashcard to support mental health. I am doing these every week on Friday and we're pressing pause because I have dedicated the year to supporting mental health and I want to make sure that I was just taking a moment to support mental health at least once a week, which is what I'm doing. So the way I'm doing that is by reading a card every week. And so we are on actually card 24, and the card is your mission. Now, I am going to be honest, you actually made a little comment on my last card, and I agree. The last card was seeking approval. And I didn't
Mhm.
like that card. I'm going to be honest. I didn't like that card because I read that card and I usually will read the card and I'll take a picture of the card, I post it, and then I tag Lyra, and then I read the card, I record myself, and I do a little story and I share it. But
Mhm.
after I read the card, it didn't sit with me. Because okay, so the card on this one, the seeking approval, it says, imagine that you have the approval of every single person on the planet. Everyone loves and respects you no matter what you do. What then would you do with your life? How would you treat others? What can you implement today? What I didn't like is like I get what it's trying to say. It's trying to say like if you don't have to worry about what other people say or whatever
Mhm.
people are doing, like what would you do if you didn't have to worry about judgment? I'm guessing.
Right.
But but I don't like this because it's like to me it's like seeking validation from others. So
Mhm.
that's not good for your mental health.
It's
In
not.
general, it's not. So, like, you should be seeking your self approval. Like, you shouldn't be
Yep.
seeking approval from others. You should be looking inward and trying to find like approval within, like what makes you happy. And
Yeah.
like, so I don't know, because
I
I
know
think
what
you put
now
a
yeah.
comment on that, and you were like,
Mhm.
"Ugh," you made the face of like,
I was
and I
like,
was
"I'm
like,
not sure how I feel about that." Yeah, now I remember because I think too, and that's another stigma, right? That we think about, right? We feel like we need approval from others um to seek to seek help
yeah,
or to take a
yeah, this
break
card makes me
or
question it.
yeah. Yeah.
Because
I
the
see what you
whole
mean.
point is like that is such a big part of mental health, is that there's so much stigma and judgment around mental health. And this one is like it's kind of validating that.
Mhm.
You're trying to get you're seeking like
Yeah.
judgment and approval, and that
And we
defeats the
don't
point.
yeah. Yeah, because the only approval you need is that of yourself. That's why I said we don't have to tell, I don't care anymore if people, say, oh, you know, you need medication. You're right. I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do. And a lot of people need a lot of other things that they're not doing. But like, you know
Well,
what I'm saying? Like,
I don't know
yeah,
about
yeah.
that
But
card
no,
they
I
read,
get it.
but I don't know, maybe I'll make a comment about that one or something. But anyway,
Yeah.
let's read this card. We're on card
Let's read that one.
24. I'm gonna post
Okay.
this one on Friday, but we're recording this early and this will come out on Sunday. But this
Okay.
one says, your mission. What's your personal mission statement? A mission statement for a company communicates what they stand for. And a personal mission statement is about your values, who you want to be, and how you want to act in your everyday life. Keep it somewhere you can reference often. Oh, I do like that one,
Yeah, I like
because I
that
feel
one.
like that's kind of like what we were just talking about
Mhm.
a little bit.
Yeah.
That is a little bit like validation, like keeping integrity, like
Mhm.
keeping
Being
true
true to
to,
yourself.
yeah, and staying in that kind of alignment.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That is. And you know me, you've known me for a while, Tiana, so
Yeah.
I am who I am. I don't know how to pretend, which
Yeah.
has gotten me into a lot of trouble sometimes, but it is what it is.
Well,
But
people are afraid sometimes to be themselves and be their authentic self, especially when you're struggling with mental health and mental well-being and mental illness. Like,
yeah,
especially for anybody dealing with a mental illness, to present that to an external front or an external world, that is scary, and that is
it is
for
scary
fear of
because people are
judgment.
judgy.
People don't want to share that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Right.
that fear of
Yeah,
judgment. So,
they
yeah.
do. Yeah. And then it's like, and then, I think one of the things too, and we didn't bring this up, but um there's a difference between having a mental illness and having, and we're not doctors, but I've seen it like a psychotic break. Like you could just have so much on you and then you see people do stuff and it's like that doesn't mean that they suffer from a mental illness. That just means that they just have had like literally a psychotic breakdown. And that happens a lot. And I think I think there's a lot of women that have that because
Yeah.
they're like, "I can't take it anymore. I can't do it anymore,"
Yeah.
and they never asked for relief. Take the kids, do this. You know what I mean? So, but
Yeah. There is this perspective of like taking time for yourself is viewed as selfish, and that
mhm,
it's not selfish. I think we need to shift that perspective on what it is to take care of yourself. It is
right.
I don't know, is it selfless? I don't
It
how
I
can we
mean,
shift that perspective? What does this mindset need to be in order to see that it is not selfish to take care of yourself?
I think the mindset really needs to be that I can't pour from an empty cup. I have to take care of
Mhm.
myself.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know, it's okay for me not to be okay and for me to go and heal. If you break
Yeah.
your foot, you gotta do what you gotta do. And so
You
it's the
can't
same,
walk
like,
with a broken foot.
you can't. And I and you can't function from a broken place. I need
Yeah.
time to rest and restore. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Oh my
that
gosh.
was good.
Okay, Nancy, we're gonna have to end because we have been talking for so
I
long and
know.
we have so much to talk about. But I just want to say thank you so much for being here today. I have just enjoyed our time and I just appreciate your time talking to me and just taking the time to talk about this and focusing on mental health and health awareness this month is so important to me, and just thank you for spending time talking about this because this topic is, the more we can talk about it, the more we can bring down the stigma, create awareness, bring more awareness to women and communities of color, and just continue to educate. And I hope that this conversation can continue to spark other conversations. And if you liked what we had here to share today, please share our conversation with somebody who you think might enjoy some of what we've talked about, or you think might get some value out of our conversation today, because we really do think that this is an important topic and we would love for you to share what we've talked about today. If it helped you and you think it could help others, please share. But that is it for us today. I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much, Nancy. We'll
Thank
see you
you, Tiana,
later.
for having me. I appreciate you so very much, and we will talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.